liberal morons. And we also hear it repeatedly, interior British Columbia. So I guess Vancouver has been sacrificed to the Chinese Communist Party, and the rest of British Columbia might seek independence. Maybe there'll be some kind of a split. I don't understand what that's all about. But the upshot of it all, in my opinion, is the collapse of the Canadian government and the collapse of the Eastern economy, Quebec and Ontario. Collapse. Collapse. Absent energy, absent food. High energy costs, gasoline, electricity, high food costs. Alberta and Saskatchewan are going to deliver their grains down south. This is a gigantic FU and middle finger to Ottawa, and they really haven't absorbed the impact yet because they're too effing stupid and proud and tied by the neck to the Chinese Communist Party. And the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, what a bunch of useless effing fools. Bought and paid and vaxxed. Bought and paid by the Chinese and vaccinated. A bunch of useless Praetorian guards. Let's move on.
What is the fate of the Canadian nation if the Western provinces move towards independence?
Break up. Fracture. They'll be scrambling to look for a parent. They'll be fractured and looking for a currency. The dollar. United States of North America. Here we come. I think it's going to be at least 3 provinces from the West. And then Ontario, it's going to have an interior revolution. They're going to dismiss the mayor of Toronto in the fraudulent election where the Chinese lady stole it. They're going to have the governor, which you call the premier in Ontario. He's going to be up in arms. They're going to be in a battle against Ottawa. You brought this about. You didn't pay attention to our energy and grain source out west. You made this happen. So it's going to be a big, big infighting, big conflict in the eastern power centers. And that's population center. Montreal, Quebec, Toronto, all the little cities around Toronto. Well, there are about 10 or 15 of them. None of them is small. A lot of population. Okay. I think it's going to bring about the fracture and collapse of the Canadian government, and I applaud that. I'm looking forward to that. We need to see that, and you guys need to get rid of the Chinese influence in your government. But you're not going to get rid of it in Vancouver because it's just too deep.
President Trump has declared Antifa and the Soros Open Society as terrorist organizations. He seems to be close to calling the Democrat sanctuary states not just renegade but traitorous. The Obama and Biden judges are supporting their sanctuary status with all-out rebellion. The U.S. National Guard's been called into action. What's next in this treacherous situation?
I think, unfortunately, in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, we're going to have increasing violence that will be eventually called civil war. Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. Their governors have been supporting the sanctuary status, which is unlawful. Sanctuary for illegal immigrants who are receiving benefits, many of whom are fraudulently on food stamps, who've been given citizenship, who've been given Social Security cards, who are on Social Security income. This is insurrection. It's an invasion. It's insurrection, and I think it's going to hit a flashpoint in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. I think the principal, the initial breakdown will be in Chicago. This is not well known, and I need to verify this, but I got a news item yesterday that said Brandon Screwball, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Screwball, IQ probably in the 70s, he just doubled the property tax for Chicago. Oh, that ought to go over well. The governor Pritzker is very anti-Trump. He's vocal about hating Trump. He's defiant about breaking the laws, and the Chicago region judges are ordering the release of ICE prisoners, immigration control and enforcement, ICE, I think that's right. It's the immigration cops. The judges are ordering Trump to release because I guess Chicago and Illinois, they want the violence and mayhem. They want the rapes and assaults to continue. They want the firebombs to continue. They want the arson to continue. I guess they want civil war, so the judges are ordering conditions conducive to civil war. Oh my gosh. There have already been attacks on ICE holding centers, otherwise called prisons, mobs, and the ICE cops are beating heads. They haven't shot people yet. I think they're next going to be moving toward rubber bullets. By the way, I faced rubber bullets in the spring of 1970 in Columbus, Ohio. That was the Kent State events. I saw people hit with rubber bullets. I saw a guy have his knee shot out. I saw blood coming out of his knee, and he immediately hit the ground. Rubber bullets, if you think they're harmless, you're wrong. They don't kill. They maim. Trump has announced that the Soros Open Society is a terrorist organization, and he's focused more on Antifa. Right now, the Soros Foundation is going to be in the news because they have done things to have the election funded for the Ugandan Marxist in New York City, Mandamanami. His name is Mandami. I call Mandamanami because I think he's a moron. Mandami has an opponent right now. It's the New York governor. Hochul is not going to make it easy for Mandami, a.k.a. Mandamanami, the Marxist moron. He wants free bus transportation. Well, they've got a $700 million budget, clown. How are you going to fill that hole? Okay, what he's essentially done is he's enabled the illegal immigrants to vote for an illegal immigrant as the mayor and to bring about the destruction of New York City. The trouble with Marxist morons is that they promise more than they can deliver, and what they do deliver results in destruction. So the socialists are some of the dumbest morons in the nation, whether it's Canada or the United States. Dumb as rocks. Hey, could you tell me one successful socialist experiment on the planet? There are lots of them. Can you name one? Oh, there are lots of them. Can you name one? Because there isn't one. There are none. They do giveaways. They drive away business. Economy craters. The rights disappear. And you end up with communism. And it's hard to get rid of communism. Very hard. Okay. I think we're going to see the sanctuary cities have their mayors arrested. I think we're going to see the sanctuary states have their governors arrested. That's Hochul in New York, Pritzker in Illinois, and Newsom, whoever is pretending to be Newsom in California. They're going to be arrested. And it's going to be very, incendiary. It's going to stoke violence. And most of the violence will be with the illegal immigrants and shipped in Mexicans in Mexico. They got, 150,000 illegal immigrants in New York City. They've taken over the hotels and not paying any rent, not paying any, hotel fees. This is an invasion. People need to wake the hell up.
Could the World Economic Forum be declared an international terrorist organization?
Yeah, but it's more like an international economic Marxist organization, an international global destruction organization, and they're very subtle. I mean, they promoted things like green energy. Oh, let's just go green, based economies on green energy. Well, that's a destructive policy because green energy can't supply more than 15% of the economic requirements for power, energy. The Economic Forum, golly, they call themselves economic, but they're really just a banker barbecue. The World Economic Forum is not economic. It's political, and it's bankers. I mean, they have a barbecue in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. What do they talk about? Monetary policy. They're bankers. It's a banker barbecue. They threw out Klaus Schwab, but they brought in somebody else who's even more dangerous, that Nestle's former CEO, who wants to take over the global water supply. That's a terrorist action. If they want to make a monopoly on water globally, they're buying up water supply. They're buying up, delivery systems. They're buying up lakes. And people are not paying attention. I'd like to return to this one point that I brought up last month and the previous month. A third of the population are dumbasses. Dumbasses. It could be your wife who's the dumbass. Could be your husband. Could be your neighbor. We're surrounded by dumbasses. They haven't figured out that the Chinese are trying to buy farm property next to military bases. They haven't figured out that there's poison in the food supply. They haven't figured out that the Democrats are an alliance of bankers, narcos, and communists who are doing trafficking. They haven't figured it out yet because they're dumbasses. Okay, the World Economic Forum, I believe in the last year or two, has lost a great deal of influence and power because a lot of their policies have been exposed and quite harmful, and no, we're not going to do that. And they sign up with the pandemic treaty with the World Health Organization. Some call it the World Harm Organization. Nobody wants a pandemic treaty, but Bill Gates, he keeps promoting it. And I got to say, again, to the dumbasses, how many Bill Gateses do you need to see before you realize it's not Bill Gates the original? How many Melanies do you need to see before you realize it's not the original? Put Bill Gates down, another one pops up. There are more Bill Gateses than there are Fetterman, Senator of Pennsylvania. They're on version 3 of Fetterman in Pennsylvania. Wake up, people. Too many dumbasses. The Democrats and the liberals in Canada are not Democrats and liberals. They're communists. Look at the eradication of rights. Oh, look at MAID, the assisted suicide in Canada. They're trying to kill young people right under your noses. Okay, yeah, World Economic Forum, Davos, it's got a lot less power than it ever has in the last 30 years, and I celebrate that. Let's move on.
We'll have more with Jim Willie right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
You're listening to goldradio.fm. Available online at HowStreet.com, TalkDigitalNetwork.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jim Willie. Is the deep state being dismantled? Are trillionaire accounts being seized? Are the deep state agents being removed? What are you seeing?
Yes. And I'm not seeing a whole lot. I'm only being told. I was told early in 2024 that the deep state was being dismantled by the White Alliance, even though Biden was in his, the dead guy pretending to be Biden, was in his final year in office. Well, not really in office. He was in the cemetery, but the guy pretending to be Biden was in his last year, and he was identified as being Roger. Oh gosh, I can't think of his last name. Rogers is his last name. A British actor who said, "I was paid $21 million to be Trump, to be Biden." I mean, the guy admitted. Okay. Anyway, the deep state started being dismantled in the last year of the Biden show. That's what I call it, because it was a show. It was a computer-generated image for, like, State of the Union. It was the same CGI for press conferences where we realized that that's not a human being that we're seeing on the video because his hand just went right through the podium. Okay, we're taken for a ride. And again, most people didn't see it because they're dumbasses. The deep state got slowly dismantled. I was told by 2018 that over half the deep state, the cabal, had been removed. But there's still quite a lot at the top, and there's quite a lot at the bottom, which means you got the generals and you got the foot soldiers. But what was removed was the middle-level agents. You know, the runners, the people in the deep state who would go to Sweden or go to Switzerland with the, $10 million in bearer bonds. The people who would set up in Caribbean locations, special purpose entities, shell corporations. Okay, all those middle-level people, a lot of them got wiped out. The trillionaire accounts are the more interesting part. I started hearing a year ago that some of the $1 trillion accounts have been seized. And I heard about 2 years ago that a lot of the royal accounts in the trillions had been seized. Another evidence of dumbasses is people who believe that King Charles used to be Prince Charles. So they made up a new one. And I got a double. I got a picture left and right. You can see it. It's close. It's like an 80% match. It's not 95, 97, which is required to be significant from a statistical standpoint. So they brought in a new King Charles. Why? Because he was presiding over the new forfeiture of the royal estate in England. And I made a forecast. I said, oh, God, they're going to get rid of this guy as soon as he does his job. And there it is. He's got cancer. So he's got only a few months to live. Why don't they bring him to the Rockefeller Institute where they have ample cancer cures? Because they want him dead. He served his purpose. And he also came to Canada several months ago and declared that Canada is basically a big stack of tribal lands and you're all squatting. Okay. The trillionaire accounts, I think, of importance are in Switzerland and France. Some of them in France, I'm told, have been confiscated. Some of the royal accounts, like in the Netherlands, have been confiscated. I'm really curious about the Spanish royals, because in my opinion, that's where Princess Diana is hiding out. She had friends among the Spanish royals. She's not dead. I have a joke. We got a lot of people in witness protection. Can you name one? Most people say, no, I don't know. That's right. You don't know. They're in witness protection. They do a good job. They protect them, and you think they're dead, like Elvis Presley, like John Lennon, like like John Kennedy Jr., maybe like the singer Prince, maybe the actor Robin Williams. I heard a joke. I didn't know if it was funny or just a true statement that was hilarious. I heard Michael Jackson is alive and well on the planet Mars. Okay, there's a lot going on that we don't know about. And Q has said, a lot of people you think are dead are alive. A lot of people you think are alive are dead. Are the deep state agents being removed? Yes. During the shutdown, I heard that there were like 2,000 or 3,000 arrests, mass arrests of names that you don't know. Okay, I asked my friends, do you know who the Undersecretary of State is for the Trump administration? Do you know there are 3 workers at the Undersecretary of Commerce? At the Department of Treasury, for the Undersecretary, they have a staff of 12. Do you know who their names are? For the Attorney General, Department of State, do you know who the lower level 20, 30 workers are? No. We don't know anything. Those are the Biden and Obama holdovers who don't get elected, and they're being removed. What Trump did and Kash Patel did in the first 2 or 3 months was to do investigations of thousands of government workers to determine who's dirty, who's loyal to the Biden show, the cabal, the globalists, Obama, emperor for life, president for life, king for life, Obama. Oh, give me a effing break. That's who they're loyal to. And they're getting arrested. During the shutdown, there were thousands of arrests. And the Democrats got scared. And it's fun. I like it. What am I seeing? I'm seeing the effects of desperation among the Democrats and a movement toward the extreme with clowns like AOC taking center stage and becoming the principal spokeswoman. I think it's hilarious. Let's run for president. If Kamala Harris can do it, so can you, AOC. You're just as dumb.
President Trump appears to be losing his MAGA support or primary support. What's going on with President Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I'm afraid Trump is getting called out for not following through on a lot of campaign promises, focusing a lot more on the little control nation in the Middle East, southeast corner of the Mediterranean. Their priorities have, I think, more pull than the rank-and-file households in the United States. Marjorie Taylor Greene has called out Trump on his turning the back on the American households. She's called him out implicitly for not noticing that there's an economic depression and American households are struggling to survive regarding costs for food, regarding costs for electricity, and costs for insurance. Marjorie Taylor Greene is now the vocal dissent voice within MAGA. And for those who don't know it, I heard a poll, and among the MAGA crowd, Trump only has about 24% support. He's lost it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's the focal point. So Trump is going to try to get rid of her and continue his loyalty to making Israel great again. Making America great again.
Where are Trump's loyalties now as president?
To those who put him in office and paid his tremendous campaign costs, Edelman, Thiel, people who put the little country in the southeast corner of the Mediterranean before the United States. I'm afraid that's where Trump's primary loyalties are, but he's doing a pretty good job for cleaning up the federal government. He's doing a good job managing the border. He's doing a good job in deporting illegal immigrant trash. And mixed in a lot with the immigrant trash is narco and drug cartel members. He's doing a good job in ordering the attacks on Venezuelan vessels. Anyone who thinks that those vessels are innocent and victims, again, you're in the dumbass crowd. The dumbass crowd is a very large crowd in the United States and Canada. Less so in Canada for the percentage. I've encountered dozens and dozens of dumbasses from the United States, and I just don't like talking to them anymore. Trump is in danger of losing a lot of support that could come out in the midterm elections next November. Trump has got to do a better job in defending the I call it the rank and file households of the United States. They're suffering. We're in a depression. He's calling it the biggest economic expansion in U.S. history. We're stuck in an economic depression. Okay, that's not just a bad perception. That's a blind man talking. He calls a big, beautiful bill evidence of prosperity and, spreading the wealth and getting the stimulus where it belongs. Well, why don't you do something about the electric grid, Donald? We're lagging behind China in the AI industry. Trump has not paid attention to the middle-class Americans, period. He's paying attention to NATO and not doing what he promised. He promised to dissolve NATO. Instead, he's arming NATO. He promised to end the Ukraine war. Instead, it's almost accelerating. Trump has ignored the middle class, and it's sad. So he needs to take down Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I hope she strongly defends her position and points out what Trump needs to do in order to become more respected within the Republican Party. This could play out with Democrats taking more spots. Oh gosh, California did redistricting. They did a referendum. They're doing redistricting. They call it gerrymandering. In other words, take all the Republican areas and put little slivers of Republican areas in with the heavy Democrat zone, so it becomes a Democrat zone, and water down all the different Republican areas and divide them out into the strong Democrat zones so they get overwhelmed. And the result is five Democrat seats will increase. There will be 5 more Democrat seats for the U.S. Congress out of California. That's not a small number. And Trump tried to speak against it, but I think they rigged the vote in California, which they do as a matter of general practice. So Trump needs to win back the MAGA crowd because he's lost it. He's got under 25% support from the MAGA crowd. And I noticed that the Patriot Underground has not invited me back for 3 months because I called him out on Trump not doing what he promised to do. Unbelievable.
Dane Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org was on with Tucker Carlson exposing chemtrails and weather modification. Are we likely to see the end of chemtrails soon?
I think we will. The trouble is that some of it might happen in ways we don't expect, like say, crop dusters. Instead of putting out pesticides of a standard type in Florida orange groves, they might put out gaseous forms of vaccines plus a lot of heavy metals. It's going to be really hard to enforce, but I do believe we're going to have legislation against chemtrails. I read that there are 30 to 32 U.S. states that are now in opposition directly against chemtrails and seeking to take action. Well, good luck. What are you going to do if there's a plane that takes off in South Dakota and sprays Illinois at 2 a.m. from 25,000 feet? Are they going to be able to catch that? Enforcement is so much more important than the law itself. It's going to be very interesting, but we do have some movement, and we do have all the conspiracy theory people. I had an argument with my own father in 2005, sitting on the porch. I said, "Look at that, Dad. There's a condensation trail." It's not a condensation trail. Let's watch to see if it evaporates in 2 minutes. Because if it's condensation, because of the because of the low pressure at high altitude, and because of ultraviolet intensity at high altitude, the water crystals will evaporate in 2 minutes. So 10 minutes later, I said, "Look, Dad, there's the trail. That's not water." He said, "Oh, Jim, I don't know about that." I said, "Dad, you're exactly right. You don't know." He said, "What are you trying to say?" I said, "Dad, you don't know. You're unaware and you're ignorant of chemtrails. It's benzene, it's aluminum, particles, and it's a lot of other things. And it's all harmful. And they're using global warming as their excuse, and you haven't figured that out either. So you're right, you don't know." So, okay, all right, Jim, all right, whatever. Okay, chemtrails are real. The conspiracy theory folks got it right. And they're going to have to stop the Bush crime family from being in charge because they just killed a pilot who was a whistleblower. They killed a pilot and another pilot. They cut off the head of his wife. This is what people do who are in charge of globalist agenda. They murder. I got information about the pilots for chemtrails. They're paid triple. but they got a non-disclosure agreement. If they violate it, they're murdered along with their family. If they do whistleblowing and get in the news, cut off the head of their wife. These aren't stories I'm making up. They're real. Which leads us to the next question.
Are all conspiracy theories being proven true?
Almost all of them, yeah. I saw a funny cartoon. It's like a 1950s white lady mother talking to her children over a dinner table and saying, well, kids, it's time to comprehend that the conspiracy theory folks are ahead 48-0. Okay, this is the reality. Conspiracy theory was a term that was formed in the 1980s by Langley and our wonderful friends at the security agencies who are involved in organized crime, cocaine, war, etc. I am proud to say I'm a conspiracy theory advocate because I've been proven right 20, 30, 40 times. Chemtrails are just one. Election fraud is another. Fake pandemic is another. Harmful and illicit economic lockdown is another. The paid bribes to the hospitals for killing people who had COVID, which doesn't exist, that's another. The 5G radiation causing pneumonia from punctured and exploded alveoli lung sacs, that's another. It's not COVID, it's pneumonia from radiation on 5G. They're all being proved correct. Thank you very much.
The digital ID push is gradually creeping into the real world we live in. Are you hearing of ways to avoid digital ID as much as possible?
Oh, it's one of my big worries right now. We might see digital finance take root in the form of like XRP or XLM or some combination XBAR regarding SWIFT transfers, regarding bank transfers. Bank of America is going to go full bore XRP. What they might try to do, the globalist cabal, they might say, well, we'll let this happen, but we're going to sneak in digital ID in there and have control over bank accounts so we can make sure that guys who are exposing our criminality can't access their bank accounts. That's my concern. Let's see if Trump makes good on his promise, no CBDC in the United States. If your Canadian provinces join the United... Oh, by the way, Danielle Smith sent a delegation 2 weeks ago to Washington, D.C. to go over all the paperwork. Now, let me remind Canadians about something. The United States has a lot of paperwork already set up. We've got state annexation and the legislation and all the procedures. We've got that down pat. The last one was Hawaii. It was smooth. We wanted a naval base. Easy. Before that, it was the Arizona Territory. Before that, it's the Oregon Territory. They became states. Years before that, it was the Nebraska Territory. We know how to do these things. And Canada, with your high court decision, has laid out the framework and all the procedures for Danielle Smith and Scott Moe to proceed. So they're doing it. They're saying F you to Ottawa. Ottawa's going to collapse. I'm loving it. The digital ID is worrisome. Notice that they're doing experiments in Thailand and in Vietnam, and they are gargantuan failures. They might do it in Canada because you're under the Chinese Communist Party thumb. They might do it in Canada because you guys up there, you don't have any freedoms. Who are you kidding? I'm not an idiot. You could turn out to be guinea pigs, and we could learn that, oh my gosh, there's 3 million Canadians who are locked out of their bank accounts because they can't get their thumbprint. They can't get their facial, their face shot. They can't match up their faces with the original setting up of their account with all the biometrics. So what's going to happen to all your bank accounts that you can't have access to? Are they going to steal it? Oh my gosh. I don't want digital ID. I want it to be alternative. I want them to accommodate the older folks like me. I'm in my 70s. I may not sound it, but I'm in my 70s. By the way, one of my secrets is DHEA, dehydroandrosterone, androepisterone, dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA. It slows down the aging process. It keeps all the hormone levels strong. I got strong hormones. Thank you very much. Digital ID is worrisome. We got to watch this. We got to get digital infrastructure integrated with the banking system and the central banks. We need to get the bridge asset like XRP working, and we do not have to compromise and have the digital ID part of that package. Let's see if we can have them separated. Well, let's see. Let's watch.
Where are the digital ID risks, and where could it be included in a clever, unsuspecting manner?
Banks might get the advantage of much lower transfers and have 80% or more reduction in costs. And they might say the only way you get that is if you have digital ID for your customers. That's my concern. That's where they could slip it in. That's where the risk lies. Digital ID is not going to be important to do trade payments like Korea and the United States or Japan and Saudi Arabia. That's not relevant. Digital ID is going to be at the individual level, and it does not work very well. You're finding it out now in Vietnam and in Thailand, where they've turned their entire financial systems upside down. They're going to give up. I think they're going to give it up. They're going to say, it doesn't work. Sorry, we're going back. Can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry. Maybe it's a goal. It doesn't work. It sounds good on paper, but it doesn't work. If 20% of the people can't get it to work, then it doesn't work. You need 99.9. It doesn't work.
Jim, where can our listeners subscribe to the Hat Trick Letter and get a private call with you?
Well, it's www.golden-jackass.com. I've got only the one newsletter. I'm now, this month will be number 260. My gosh, I remember when it was 20 and 30. Got the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. Find your favorite chapters and follow them. Read the others if you wish. I try to have an introductory chapter. I try to have something on cabal, corruption, and conspiracy toward harming the human species and the Earth planet. I've got time. Today I did a consult call. I did another one 2 days ago, as I said. I enjoyed them. Jim, honestly, I really enjoy the consult calls because it gives me an opportunity to go face-to-face and discuss things with people who are in the real world. A lady recently said, Jim, I'm a widow. I live with a friend of mine, another woman. We've got a South Dakota farm. And we talked about how she hedges against her wheat and corn crop. Okay, I'm enabled a conversation to learn more. I have one coming up again. It's the second conversation with an FDIC marshal who shut down banks that were insolvent and broken. That's going to be interesting with him again. I got to call him up and say, hey, look, let's do this. He signed up back in September and said, let's just wait a month or so. I want some things to shake out. I got some things to share with you. Okay, fine. So I got consult calls. I got time for that. But I got to emphasize, Jim, that because I'm so vocal and because I'm bold in calling out fraud and evil, I've been harmed. I've been harmed a lot. I've been harmed deeply. And I've got a lot of clients who've helped me out and continue to help me. But I have serious financial losses from bizarre events like fires, car crashes, collapsed roofs, even an erupted septic tank and a rat attack. I've had 5 wrongful death lawsuits, court orders. So I'm being harmed financially. I need help. So hit the donate button if you're not a subscriber. Hit the donate button if you want to give something extra. If you're very wealthy, hit the sponsor button. Someone hit the sponsor button last week, and honestly, I fall to both knees. And I thank the Lord God for touching that person's shoulder to help me, because I'm fighting pure evil. I don't think we've got even half our nations of Canada and the United States who are aware that this is a battle of the planet Earth, of God versus Satan. The Democrats represent Satan. The Satanists, the narcos, and the communists. The Republicans represent patriots, conservatives, nationalists. They want to preserve the nation's integrity and the borders. The Satanists want to do trafficking, drugs, kids, you name it, adrenochrome. This is a battle of good versus evil, of God versus Satan, and not half our population